meeting is being recorded. And just as a couple more people are coming on, I wanted to see if I could um, share something here. Now this, just to
I know
show
it doesn't
you
look like
all
it
this.
now. I'm going to be a realtor when I get old.
Okay.
I'm going to sell luxury real estate to some of the wealthiest people in the world. Remember, anything is possible.
Okay. So what are you looking at here?
This was Edmund on his first LSD trip.
Not LSD trip. That was very good, Terry. I'm glad that you brought that up. That was a grainy still picture that I found of myself back when I was a wild kid. It wasn't LSD. I'm sure I was smoking lots of weed then. That was just me. And we all had our time. But that image was a grainy image that I took and I uploaded to something called runway.ml and I animated it. The voice was a clone of my voice, which also was created. That was created by a company called 11 Labs. Daniel, as you have time, please, you're busting your chops today, and I appreciate it. But when you have time, if you could give the links to 11 Labs and to um, runway.ml, it's really quite remarkable because while that was a bit of a joke, I said, God, I'd love to get a video of when I had long hair. And I just found this grainy picture of myself. And I was able to actually create that. And I thought it was pretty good. So that was the thing, that was your moment of Zen. You were able to see that stuff.
So Edmund, the voice program, you sounded more like you this time than in times past. So is this a different voice program that you used?
Yes, it's a different voice program, but more importantly, it was a better recording. It was
Ah,
when you train it, and we're going to be evolving through this. My partner's not here yet, but we have now created our first course. We're going to have this whole course package, and we're struggling with the right format to put that in. And you will be able to, if you want to help us and review the program, it's workbook oriented with a course, and we're talking about the use of ChatGPT and AI and different tools that we're actually building out there. So we have that. Today we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about what the heck is this? Okay, sorry about that. We're talking about listing agreements and actually getting these deals and getting them through and hopefully coming up with a plan. Again, if you download what I have, the comprehensive workbook, you could take a look at this on your own as well. How many people are doing pre-appointment preparation? You could be really, okay, Harris, that hand just jumped way up. Can you tell everyone who you are and where you are?
Hey, morning, everybody. My name's Harris Benson. I'm in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
One thing that's really helped me a lot, especially with both warm but especially colder listing appointment leads, is the emphasis on a pre-listing kind of conversation, pre-listing appointment with the potential seller.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll get connected to them. I'll make a phone call and I'll act like I'm about to run into a meeting, but wanted to get them on the phone real quick just to make a connection. And my goal then and there is to set up the in-person appointment. I try and make it like 2 or 3 days later if I can, to give me time to prep. And then I'll also set up a time for the day after this initial call and just ask for a quick, hey, I want to do some basic research on the house. Do you have time for a quick 10 to 15 minutes tomorrow? And I'll have some basic questions about the property and whatnot, that'll help me prep for our in-person meeting and make it most effective. And no one's ever said no to that.
Mm.
It's that pre-appointment call that's the goal, like I said, is 10 minutes, because I'm verifying information on the house, I'm verifying motivations, I'm verifying what their game plan is if it doesn't sell. And a key question I ask is I also see what price they're thinking. Because everyone has a price, and that allows me to come in on the actual appointment date, and I can either say they're crazy and educate them professionally as to why, or maybe validate some of their thoughts. And so I'm already kind of know where their head's at going into that in person and know what's important to them. Like I'm also asking about what marketing they like, et cetera. But it's really helped me understand what they really want to talk about so I can properly prepare.
Okay. And I've seen very few people argue if they've agreed to the meeting, they should agree to the pre-meeting. Is that a safe
Yeah, I mean, it's all about how you approach it, right? I'm pretty casual, so you just be casual about it. Say, hey, this is part of my process. It allows us to have the most effective in-person meeting possible, and that's what everyone wants.
Okay. Let me ask you this. What's your, again, and I hope I'm not getting too personal with your business, but what's your success rate with your listing appointments?
Well, I most of my leads are pretty warm. So say for my cold leads, I'm probably like 70%.
70%.
Get
So
every
seven,
70% for people
7
that
out of
don't
10
know me
times you
prior
get the
to.
listing.
Say it again.
7 out of 10 times when you go in, you get the listing.
Yeah, it should be 7 out of 10. I mean, every now and then I get somebody that chooses someone else and it's just out of my control, or maybe I just didn't perform great that day. But and that's for cold leads. For warm, it's obviously closer to 99% or
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Well,
But the
sure.
pre-listing call, it really helps. It really does. I think that boosts it from probably a 40%, 50% to a 70+% because you know exactly kind of where their heads are at going in.
So here's a change of paradigm for all of you. Thank you for that, Harris. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go back. You jumped right into it, and I know that this is a passion of yours based on our friendship and our interactions. But I want all of you to think about sales this way. This is not something that necessarily happens. This is not some magical event, you know. And conversely, if it doesn't work out, it's not a matter of Rosemary's Baby and demonic possession. That it wasn't something that happened to you. When you actually win and win in one of these things, to me, it's the next natural step in the relationship. That's how I want you to, because if you look at it psychologically that way, this is just making sense as opposed to, okay, I got to ask, will she kiss me? I mean, you know, what are we going to do at this point? How are we going to actually go? Who else has anything to say about the pre-listing appointment? Does any of you actually do what Harris is doing or have a spin on that? Terry or Andy or Aton or any one of you, if you want to jump in.
Yeah.
Andy Neal, tell everyone who you are and where you are.
So I'm Andy Neal, as you can see, and I'm from Orlando. So I often send out a high note before I go to see them.
Okay,
With
explain High
example,
Note. Explain
so
High
it's
Note.
just a platform where you can upload items of marketing. They're all links to certain pages. It's cheap, it's like $350 a year. It's phenomenal. It's like a presentation you can send to people and you can see when they've looked at it. So I send them a presentation with a video with my stats, basically what I'm going to show them on the day, but they've seen it before I go. So they already know most of what I'm going to show them and they're already impressed by it by the time I turn up.
Okay,
I
good.
would look into High Note. It's a really good tool.
So yeah, Daniel, you know what I'm going to ask. Just get the High Note link. So how long have you been using High Note for?
About 3 years.
3 years.
You can send
Okay.
it to everyone for pre-listings, for other agents. You can send it to buyers, anything. It's
And,
phenomenal.
and explain to everyone what it does again.
So it's like you send it an email, and then under the email it'll have different sections of different things. Like I'll send a link to my videos on YouTube. I can send a link to my website, but it's blocks. It's hard to explain without showing you.
Okay. Okay.
It's a really good presentation. Maybe that's one day we could do a session on that.
Yeah,
It's
no,
quite good.
listen, I think a few people have said High Note to me. Truth be told, I haven't used it. Oh my God, it doesn't use all the tools. I mean, you know, I just have to say there's just too many tools out there
Right.
to follow, but I really do pick up from the membership here what some great stuff is. And now when I've heard High Note more than 4 or 5 times, I think it's definitely something. Daniel, remind me to look into it and Andy, since you gave such a great presentation before about absentee owners, maybe we could lean in on that in a future.
And it's really good for that as well. If you're dealing with someone out of state, you can't sit down face to face with. High Note's really good to send them information.
Yeah. And Andy Neal, great guy. Everyone should know him. And Andy, what percentage of your business is absentee owners now?
About 65, 70%.
Okay. So the majority of his deals are coming from his marketing efforts from Orlando to the UK.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind. There's different tools that are out there to do different things. Andy's a good guy to hook up with. Guys, if you're going to be in sales, call each other, meet one another. This is the safest call that you're ever going to make. If anyone hangs up on you, they're going to be thrown out of the network. I mean, not that bad. But the truth be told, that we should be leaning in and helping one another out. There's some great advice that we could get. And by the way, it's a great bit of practice. To meet a guy like Andy is fantastic. To do a deal with him is even better. If you have somebody moving to Orlando, that's definitely a thing. There's your gratuitous plug, Andy. You see how this works?
Thank you.
Little
Appreciate it.
payola, little love there. Okay.
Appreciate it, young man.
Okay. Anyone else on the pre appointment? Okay, let's go next. Powerful questions. What are some of the questions that you're going to ask? You know, when somebody's who's controls the conversation? The person that's talking, the person that's asking the question. Who wants to have a wild guess?
Person who's talking.
Okay, thank you. There's no, it's a safe. Everyone's got a person who's talking. Yes, Lavette, you're right.
I'm sorry, I was choking.
The person who's asking the questions is really the one that's guiding the whole conversation, the cadence of the conversation. What's happening next within the conversation? If you're asking the questions, that's really important. So therefore, pick your questions carefully. Pick your questions really, really carefully. Anyone jumping at asking? Greg Coggins, is he here? Oh. Greg can't.
Yeah, he's here.
Oh, there he is. You're here twice. I see you. Okay. So
I am.
what are some of the questions that you ask?
In a pre-listing
Here a
conversation?
second. So,
Jennifer, are you meaning to be
so
unmuted?
question for you. This has nothing to
Okay, I just muted her. Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
That's all right. Your question is in a pre-listing conversation?
In a well, yeah, in a pre-listing and then ultimately listing, what are some of the questions that you think are powerful when it comes to getting what you want, which is ultimately the listing?
Wow, I have kind of a whole checklist, if you will, a worksheet of questions that I ask, but they include timing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how quickly do you need to be out of the house?
Good. Question one, when? Okay, that's exactly what I was looking for. Go on, Greg. Sorry, I'm excited by this.
You know, have you spoken with anybody else in the neighborhood about their sale or whether or not they may be interested in your sale?
Okay. Yeah, I put you on the spot. So yeah.
Yeah, the question about, you know, what everybody has in their mind, what they think their home is worth. You know, before I actually start talking about what I think we might be able to sell your home for, what do you think your home is worth and why?
Okay.
What changes have you made? What upgrades have you made to your home? Hmm,
Okay.
do you have to sell to buy
The next one.
wherever you're going? Do you have an agent representing you wherever you're going, or are you going to buy locally? Do you need help with that?
So Greg, you brought up a very good point. I've got Samantha here. I don't know if Dina's here. Dina's probably some. Oh, Dina's here too. So that's my team. We have had a great year doing what I call round trips. That the person sells one house, unless you're going to move into a teepee, or regrettably pass away. There's oftentimes more than one transaction that's actually taking place. Isn't that true?
yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's important to try and get those questions. Oh, but Ed, they're moving to Florida. Great. Refer it to me. I'll pay you. But Ed, they're moving to Brooklyn. Great. Refer it to Terry. I know for a fact he loves business. He loves it. So just think that through. Now, Harris, what did you put into the chat here? You got to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the questions on like my list. Like I have in like a notes app that when I'm having that initial call, this is what I'm trying to hit.
Okay. Daniel, if you could save those we could add that to the show notes here at the end. And guys, if you want to cut and paste this is exactly this is one of my favorite meetings today because this is going the way I like it. You guys are actually contributing, sharing experiences, sharing the success, because what works for Harris in Texas is likely to work for Terry in Brooklyn or Andy in Orlando, or any one of you. So I think that's great stuff. Thank you very, very much for sharing it. What are some of the building rapport questions that could be asked when you're actually on the listing appointment? Anyone want to have a guess on that? Was that a hand, Katie, or was Kate, or was that just adjusting the phone?
No. So I'm not real estate. It's just to get the person talking about themselves and mine, like I said, is fundraising, but it's the impact that they want to have about their family, their philanthropy, what's important to them, their values, how they feel they can make a difference. I really try to make it all about them.
Sure, that's very good, and you do a very good job, by the way. She has a very good, wonderful fundraiser. Has gotten money out of a lot of people for good causes, so that's a good thing. Okay, what about the presentation? Let's talk about that for a second. Is there an actual written presentation that you have going in? And guys, if the answer to this is no, there's no need to beat yourself up. Oh, I don't do it. That's not what today's about. Today's not about beating yourself up over what you didn't do in the past. It's about what are you going to do starting today going forward? What are you actually going to do to use this information today? My stated objective is always for you to take the information here, immediately go back to your office and use that info to make money. So, listing presentation. Terry, what's one of the things that you're going to put into a listing presentation?
Data about the sale of the property. What are the comps? What is, what is on the market? What has sold? I used to stuff my package full of, I'm great. Douglas Elliman is great. Blah 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 blah. And it's been my experience that people don't. I mean, they may look at that later after I'm gone, but what they want to see during our conversation is, how am I arriving at the sale price for their property? So I put that first and foremost.
Okay, very, very good. So that's one, sale price and some data. Who else has got some stuff they want to put into the listing presentation? And we will have examples of listing presentations to give to you. If anybody would like that, you could just send an email to Daniel at Bogen Homes, and we will send one of our listing presentations, which, by the way, you may not like. You may or may not like it. It's not, I don't take it personally. If you think it sucks, tell us it sucks. I need to make a living here. This isn't like, this wasn't you walking into someone's home and saying, oh, what an ugly cuckoo clock. Somebody did that to me, by the way. It was somebody's mother's cuckoo clock. The mother had just passed away, and they cuckoo clock is mom. It's like, oh, who would have a cuckoo clock? And this person went ballistic on them. Never insult a cuckoo clock. But in this case, what I'm trying to do is actually get better from this, and as all of you are. So if you get the presentation and you think it sucks, tell us. Or if you think there's ways to improve, what else goes into your listing presentation? I'm going to pick on Harris for a second. Harris, what else, when you've gone through all this pre-work, what's some of the things, one thing in your listing presentation?
I have a booklet with me, and really what I come with that day is going to be focused on what we talked about, and what questions they had during the initial meeting. So if they want to talk about marketing, it'll be focused on marketing. But I'm kind of like Terry. I'm probably mostly going to be talking about the market, pricing. The first thing I do, I'm going to go walk around the house with them. We're going to talk about the property. But there's something that they wanted to harp more on during our initial call, or if they had questions about marketing, I'm not going to answer it. I think a key thing is to not answer questions as much as possible during the initial call, because you want to do all that in person. Like you don't want to get yourself looped into a listing presentation on the phone. Mm-hmm. You want to do that in person. So if someone's asking you about your marketing tactics, say, hey, I just wanted to take this initial call to gather some information. More than happy to go over what that looks like, during our in-person on this day and time.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, well, it's not that you don't want to answer the questions. You don't want to answer them on the initial call. I just want to be
correct.
Clear. Okay.
Correct.
So that's, and I happen to agree. I think that because you might say something over the phone, they're like, okay, I've heard enough. And then you lost the opportunity, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
it's mostly what Terry said. I'm going to be mostly focused on the market, and pricing, comps, etc. But secondarily, it'll be what they want to talk about based on an initial call, in addition to going around the property and advising on those things.
Sure. storytelling as well. But Daniel, if you find it, and I know you're busting your chops today here, if you find it, there's the video of our past meeting, it was just a week or two ago, about storytelling, the power of story. I think we had that. If you could put that in the only if you could find it. I know that it's in there, guys. So if you want to look it up, Greg, please unmute yourself and enlighten us.
Well, you asked about pre-listing. So in my pre-listing call, I advise the potential client that I have a pre-listing. It's a little bound folder that I deliver the day or 2 days before our appointment, and that kind of lays out the expectation for what to expect during the face-to-face appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the face-to-face obviously goes through probably what everybody goes through, a tour of the home. One of the things I like to do when I first walk in is I give, whoever the decision makers are, we sit down at the kitchen table. I give them a sheet of paper. I call it my VIP questionnaire that captures all of their personal information for future use, birth dates and anniversary dates, and et cetera, et cetera. And I ask them if it's okay if I walk around the home by myself, so that I can take a look at it from a buyer's perspective. And then later we'll walk around together and I can kind of point out what I think maybe needs to be changed. And they can talk about what they love about the home. So other questions that I ask while I'm face to face with them are, what do you love about the neighborhood? What do you love about the home? What do you not like about the neighborhood? And what do you not like, or what would you change about your home?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of some of the stuff. And I do have both that pre-listing packet that I deliver, and then a listing presentation that I keep in hand. I also have a little folder that I have laminated cards, and I learned this trick from somebody else, of all the services, the different marketing services, so that when we get into a discussion about commission, if they're not interested in paying what my commission is, then I lay these cards out in front of them and I say, okay, well, this is what my commission um, purchases or pays for. And if you don't want to pay that, what of these services would you like to remove?
Sure.
And generally, they don't want any of those services removed, and I get what I'm asking for.
Okay, so let's repeat. Well, just to paraphrase, because I do something very similar. He has cards or has some type of presentation about all the things that he's bringing to the table, and I guess that might be, at least with the Edmund Bogen team. What we do, we have professional housekeeping come in and clean the place. We then get it professionally photographed. We then make a floor plan. If appropriate, we make a drone image of the place. We make a video. We get it virtually staged, okay, which I will absorb the cost on virtual staging, not staging, virtual staging. Virtual staging is where we could remove a mess that might be in the living room digitally within the computer, or change the color of a wall. We have to disclose that just by, according to Florida law, we want to be able to get that out. All those things are going in here. But here's the thing, that if everybody writes this down, I guarantee, okay, that this is going to help you in your sale. So is everybody ready to write down? Okay. This is really, really big stuff. Write this down. When you say that you want to pay less of a commission, what you really mean is that you want to get the maximum dollar amount for your home. Isn't that the truth? And shut up at that point. Let them get some type of agreement. When you say you want to pay less of a commission, what you're really saying is that you want to make more money. Okay, so now I want to bring the sales back to being a salesperson. You've got to convince them. And here's the thing. If you don't think you can, then don't ever say it. If you really, I honestly believe that I'm doing my clients such a service. I've got a situation right now where I've gone to such extent for this guy that's both buying and selling a home. I'm going to be paid a lot of money. I've got to work for it. And so do you. So just remember that when you say, you could write it down, when you say that you want to pay less of commission, what you really mean is that you'd like to get the maximum dollar amount that you possibly can on the sale of this home. Isn't that the truth? Great. Here's why these things matter. Here's why the photographs matter. Here's why the floor plan matters. Here's why I need to do what I do to get this job done. It's that simple. We could talk about some areas where you might want to cut some corners. And indeed, everything, according to NAR especially, is negotiable. We all know that. But if you stop and think it through, I think you're making the battle. The argument that I hear more of my clients, more of you, more of my membership here say is that, well, I've worked really hard for it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how hard you work for it. You're making it about you. You don't make it about you. You make it about them. That's what it boils down to. If you could really make that, I guess, okay, Kate is all excited by that here. Kate, you want to unmute, Kate? Or were you just like fixing your phone? Okay, bad.
How do you
Bad
okay to go there, Ed? I thought that was interesting. How do you determine who the decision maker is? And are there questions you ask the place who the decision maker is?
Within the home?
Is that okay to go there, Ed?
Go where?
Just generally within the home. Like I'm thinking about it with my business. Like sometimes you don't know if it's which spouse is the decision maker, how within the home, who's driving the sale, who's driving the yes to get us to yes.
Yeah, I think if you're sitting in front of them, I think it's definitely important to figure that out, but it's a good question. How do you figure out? Let me expand on that a second. It's too bad Tinka's not here. We had a listing appointment with a couple that hated each other. They were getting divorced. And it was crucial that she was with me because she kind of warmed up to the wife and I kind of warmed up to the husband a little bit. And we were recommended by an outsider to both of them. So, anybody get into those situations that they've got, where they're trying to find the decision maker in the case of a divorce or otherwise? Anybody have some insights into this? Because it's a very good question that Kate poses. Terry, is that a thought? You're muted, Terry. You're still muted.
Yes, it's a thought. Obviously, I have to let it percolate because I don't get many of them. Divorces are especially tough because you have to appeal to both sides of them and treat them equally. Send the same email, send text to both of them at the same time. Finding who is the decision maker in the family, it's not necessarily the one that talks the most. It's often the one who doesn't, who might end the conversation. It's really in conversation with them that you find those people.
Yeah, I'm just looking up one of the examples here to give, but I couldn't find it. So, to me, I oftentimes when it comes to buyers, I default to the wife because in my experience, it's almost always when you're dealing with the traditional a man and a woman as a family, it's usually she leads a lot of it. Not always, and I think it's not fair to just make that assumption, but a lot of times it is. Identifying the person who's ultimately making the decision, it's a tough one. It's a tough one because you really do need to gear it up. I've made the mistake multiple times where I was talking to the wrong person and making the wrong emphasis. I thought that it was going to be so important to get them out quickly, and they didn't share that. Again, it was just my assumption that I'm going to do it quickly and efficiently. They wanted a long close, so you get those types of things. Good question. Let's moving right along. Levette asked the question: how do you do floor plans? There is an app. If you have an iPhone, I'm sure they have it for other phones called Flow Plan, FLO Plan, PLAN. Fantastic. Kate, you can even do it if you want to make a floor plan of your house. It's kind of fun. They charge for realtors. It's sort of free-ish, freemium. There might be some charge for non-realtors. It's really not terribly expensive. It's wicked cool because you actually walk through the house with your iPhone, making the floor plan, and then you send that to the service, I guess in India or wherever it might be, and within 24 hours, usually it's within 2 hours, they get an almost perfect floor plan. It's not architectural ready, so don't tell people that they can rely on it to do construction or something, but it's perfect for our purposes. And there, cat's out of the bag. That was worth this. Greg, who do you use for virtual staging? We use, who is it, VHT? Samantha?
Yeah, VHT. VHT does a great job.
Stop, Roxy.
VHT. Jennifer, I'm just going to mute you Jennifer Patton, just because.
And something else to remember that VHT does, if you have a hoarder, they can take all of that stuff out of the room as well. If you
Yes.
just have a room that you can't see the walls, they have a great program. It's kind of like the reverse of staging. They can empty the room out so that it's easier to see.
Yeah. And I think it's like $25 or $30 an image, $50. It's something. It's not
It's
cheap.
worth it.
It's worth it. It's worth it. You know, at the end of the day, we need to paint a picture, guys. So that's really important. Daniel, if you could look up VHT and then put the link in there. I don't think it's VHT.com. I think it's something else, but if you could find that, that would be great. Handling objections. Okay, moving right along here. We want to definitely get to this. This was the most important one to me. Some of the give me some common objections, Harris, Terry, and Andy. You know, I want to hear what do people tend to shoot you down for? Harris, I know you succeed all the time, but when you don't, what does somebody say to you that's shooting you down? That's an objection.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like recent ones. Like, I mean, they always try to like hammer you on, you know, marketing, this, that, the other. I try and refrain from going through the whole marketing pitch because I want to hold some stuff back until we're actually working together. So maybe I make a mistake sometimes is to not sharing everything. So what I don't want to do is like take that idea or take something and talk to the other agent about it.
Okay.
I have lately is like I only want all cash offers.
That's
Yeah, well, I want a lot of things too.
Yeah.
Ultimately, no matter what form of financing this is, you're going to walk away with the money that we arrive at. So all cash, yes, it can make things easier, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily the end all and be all. I'm not expressing this very well.
You're doing great.
Yeah, well,
You're doing great. I mean, when somebody says all cash, you know, anybody know what it is to kibitz? Kibitz, little Yiddish here. It basically means to joke around. So I kibitz with the people. Okay, Terry, make note of kibitz. It's important that and Greg, make note of kibitz. So somebody says something like that to me, I'm like, yeah, I want to be 35 with a washboard stomach. Okay, it doesn't mean that either of us are going to get what we want. I use that line a lot. Somehow it works. I don't know. Maybe I get away with more than most, but somehow that's the thing. Let me ask you, Terry, have you lost a deal because somebody said they only want cash?
I haven't lost the deal, but they have not. We're still talking. We don't have a signed exclusive for the sale of their property. And I don't necessarily think they're talking to anybody else. They're just hedging, which I think is, you know, happening a lot right now in the industry.
Yeah. Okay. So we have who else on this topic? Anybody else want to share?
Yeah, I think
Objections.
one
Terry,
big objection.
Andy, go ahead.
I think pricing is a big objection because the sellers always want more than we think it's going to be, you know, what we think it's going to sell for. That's always an objection I get, especially when you're up against an agent that maybe isn't as experienced or that doesn't sell as many homes because they just want to get the listing, so they'll price it for whatever. So that's something I'm coming up against a lot lately. I think sellers are still in the mindset of 2 or 3 years ago, and they haven't caught up to reality. So
Hallelujah. I'm so glad. Quick story. Had a listing appointment recommended by the attorney, just like Harris. Man, that's it. I'm gonna list this. It's gonna be somewhere between 2.2 and 2.3 million. Fantastic. Had a great presentation at the end of it. So Edmund, we really like you. What would you list the property for? I said 2.223. And she goes, "Are you kidding me? This is gonna sell for 3.3, a full $1 million higher." I said, "Okay, look, I'll do whatever you want." I lost her. Lost it. Went with the next agent who talked her off the ledge a little bit. She listed it for 2.9. 6 months later, it sold for 2.2, right in where I said it was going to sell for. And then a week later, she died. But one thing had nothing to do with the other. But that said, it was just the message isn't list with Ed or you'll die. The message,
Oh, Edmund.
the message
couldn't help
is,
but not say that detail.
Yes, I said that out loud. Okay, like I said, the point of the story is this: that you will have people that will have that. What could I have done to have led into the whole price conversation. But I oftentimes struggle with that. We always struggle with the ones you lose.
That's why you do the pre-listing question. That's why you kind of force them to tell you,
Yes.
because then you know where their head's at. And then you can be like, okay, shit, she's a million above me. Let's see if I can wiggle her down something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, you've always
'Cause otherwise
still-
you're shocked and you don't know what to do because you're like, fuck. In your head, you're like, fuck, she's a million ahead of me. What do I say? What do I say? What do I say? And
Yeah.
you're kind of in a bad position.
So I always insist that, okay, look, we'll go with your price, but we're going to put a clause on the contract. If it doesn't sell by X date, we're going to reduce it to my price. If we get that agreement, they can't really argue with it.
Yeah.
That seems to work because then they're saying, okay, fine, I think I'm right, but if I'm wrong, then yeah, I'll openly admit you were right and we'll reduce the price. So
I'll also ask, where do you get that number?
Yeah.
Did it come to you in a dream, or are you basing this on something that perhaps I missed?
I have one person who said, yeah, well, I need that to buy the next place. And again, I could give my washboard stomach thing again, but that usually pisses them off at that point. So I don't. But that's Greg, you had your hand up for a second.
I did. A couple of the ways I handle those kinds of objections. First, I explained that there are certainly agents in our market that will list for that crazy price.
Mhm.
But they're just trying to get your listing, and they're going to come back a little bit later to bring you down to a more realistic price. The other thing I say is my business is selling homes. I'm not in the business of testing the market. If you want to test the market and sit on the market for a little while, then maybe I'm not the right agent from you. And I will walk away from a listing if they're not reasonable in pricing. If they're close to kind of my high mark, then I'll put that clause in the listing agreement that says, we're going to go 10 days, and if you're not under contract in 10 days, we're going to bring it down to my price.
Okay, so I've done that as well. That great. We'll try your plan for the first 2 weeks, which I think is a mistake because, and as Samantha and Dina will tell you, who's in this meeting, we've had multiple situations where we go too high and you lose the market and you lose that. And we got something closing now. Our buyer, we happen to have both sides. Our buyer is getting a phenomenal deal. And the home that he bought here, same thing. He bought a home here for 1,850,000. I know for some of you who are not in markets of this size, that sounds like a lot. And indeed it is. Almost $2 million. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to anybody. But I will tell you this, relative to the market, he had built-in equity of about $300,000. Built-in equity. That the home, I know, and I could prove it. I could show you all the comps. So now he bought this home from, I was the agent. I was his buyer's agent 2 months ago. He said, Ed, can we get more for my house? I said, yes, you could get out of it more than whole. He said, good. I like the other listing that you have. I want to buy that now. So I've got his listing and he's buying another listing. It's never happened to me, guys. It's very rarely. So I'm going to brag about it a little bit. I mean, we got to get excited when excitement comes. Just to digress for a second, who's seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross? Show of hands. Eitan, you better raise your hand. You didn't see Glengarry required viewership for anyone in this business.
Look up ABC.
Yeah, you got to learn your ABC. Always be closing. Always. Always. BBC closing. Always be closing. Not phenomenal. You have to see the movie. It is your job to get the customer to sign on the line, which is dotted. That's probably the only thing I like about Alec Baldwin. Okay. Great movie, required watching. If you sell real estate, again, Daniel, find the link, put it up there if you can. That's really, really important. This whole time I've been thinking Glengarry Glen Ross. Terry, pretty close?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Glengarry Glen Ross, definitely great movie, especially given what you do for a living. It is fantastic. One other thing that I'd like to suggest, some reading. Every week I'm going to recommend some required reading as well. Phenomenal story called Dead End. Dead End, especially, are any of my title people in here? Especially if you're in title, there was a case, Terry, you probably remember this. Any of my New Yorkers probably remember this. Santi and Kenneth Kimes were grifters that moved into a mansion on the Upper East Side. A woman, Eileen Silver, she was, a widow, inherited this gigantic property, beautiful property. You could drive by it now. And she kept it as almost a boarding house to help support things. I know it sounds a little crazy that people did that even into the 1980s and 90s, but they did. And Santi and Kenneth Kimes, the police were able to build a entirely circumstantial case against this mother and son grifter team who kidnapped her, killed her. They never found a body, took her identity, attempted to take title, and then sell the and they almost got away with it. Required reading, exciting book, dead end. See that? And Glengarry Glen Ross, you got to see that. Sorry, guys, I just get very excited by real estate. This is very exciting to me. Okay, so anything else on this topic? I encourage you to use the comprehensive workbook. Daniel, if you could just put that up a couple more times in the chat here so that everybody could download it. And if you can't download it, Daniel at Bogen Homes, we will gladly send that to you. Again, I'm trying to bring good things to you. Eitan and I have this course. We would like to speak with some of you if you'd like to be some of our first to try it out and to use it. This is going to be something something great. Harris said it would be great to have a high note class. Harris, yes, I need to educate myself on it to be able to speak authoritatively, or get one of you guys who do so that we could give the best. But yes, I agree. A high note class would be fantastic. What else before we get to wants, needs, and brags? Any other questions on this topic here? This is fun today. I like this. No, maybe avez-vous compris? The quiet ones? Anyone want to say anything? Anyone? Maybe? Okay, tough crowd. I know I'd be happy to present. Carmen, great. Let's talk after the show here. I'd love to be able to catch up with Carmen. Daniel, if you could send her my number, that would be great. So, okay, guys. So I definitely want to. Let me just show you one last time. Again, I like to bring good things to the table here. You took a look at it before. This was made with AI. I took an old photograph. Just to
I know
show
it
you.
doesn't look like it now. I'm going to be a realtor when I get old. I'm going to sell luxury real estate to some of the wealthiest people in the world. Remember, anything is possible.
Okay, so that's that is an AI tool, a couple of AI tools. Again, all of you are always asking me for those things. Why is it important? It's important because you're going to have a shot of a house, or there's going to be something that you're going to want to replicate. That was a still grainy photograph. Ridiculous. I'm not going to share it publicly on social media, at least unless I, get drunk or something and do something stupid. No, I won't do that. But you're able to take this, and there was so much in there. The music was AI. The voice was a cloned voice of mine. The image was a still photograph that was animated using AI. I'm just trying to test the limits, and I'm encouraging all of you to tinker with these tools. This is all available to you for either free or very, very inexpensive. So just keep all that in mind. Okay. Wants, needs, and brags. This is the time in the meeting to talk about something that you want, something that you need, and something that you'd like to brag about. It could be that I'm going to Texas tomorrow to see my daughter. I'm so excited about that. And that's something that I worked very hard. I play very hard. I'm really looking forward to it. My kids are my everything, and I can't wait to see her. That's something I'm doing. Who's got something they want to share? Lavette, you've got your hands up. Talk to us, Lavette.
Well, it is a want. It is
Tell me.
need for my business. I'm ashamed to say this, but I've been a real estate agent for over 10 years, and I'm finally getting ready to get a website built.
Okay. Look, what happened in the past is the past.
Right.
You're getting better every day. No need to beat you. I reject beating yourself up. In fact, I
Okay.
forbid it. How do you like that?
Thank you.
So
I'm proud of myself.
You should be proud of yourself. And please, if you want some real constructive feedback, I'm not going to tell you necessarily what you want to hear, but I'll tell you what I believe. and you could take it and that goes to all of you if you want. That's good. Thank you, Livette. Livette, just give yourself a plug. Where are you and where's your service?
Southampton Roads, Virginia.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Everyone get to know Livette. She's very nice. Who else? Wants, needs, and brags. Could be a website, could be a kid graduating school, could be a deal that you just got. Could be that you just want to meet everyone and tell everyone, hey, if you're in my town, I'm your person to sell real estate for you. No? Maybe? Kind of? Okay. Terry, they're a tough crowd today again. Aton.
Well, question. When are we going to have a meetup? A Rain Nation meetup?
Like in person?
Yeah.
Why, are you going to fly to Vegas or?
I did tell you that I have a companion pass for a whole year. So.
Oh, well, that's why you're busy. Okay. For the rest of us mere mortals who don't have a companion pass. It's interesting that you said that. I have been thinking about, and Aton and I are actually, Aton's going to be coming here in November for our executive board meeting. We've got 2 weeks of meetings together to plan the business here. And that's definitely on the agenda. We want to do it. We want to do it right. And I want to be able to make it so that it's both affordable and effective. There's enough real estate conferences in the world, but Livette, I could put you down as somebody who's interested, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay, anybody's interested.
I might even fly out to have lunch with you one day. Who knows?
I love it. No, by all means, we'd host it for you. We'll have a party for you.
Okay.
Terry, ask Terry when he comes. We roll out the red carpet. We want to.
And I will say, Edmund, even before Rain Nation, the first time I came down to do my Brooklyn speech to the Boca office, that's when I met Nancy Strong, and it just seemed to domino from there. So this is absolutely a worthwhile thing to put together.
Sure. Well, thank you. If anyone's interested, just to see a show of you, if anyone's interested in going to a destination conference that as a group we could build the stuff, please put a comment in this thing here and let us know. Randy, you had a question. Or you're raising your hand. Randy, hi.
Actually, sort of a brag. As you know, I'm brand new to real estate. So it's first year, and I closed my first house yesterday.
Booyah! Congratulations.
Okay, we're dancing here. Yeah, look at this.
Yeah, I was the seller's agent. We closed yesterday, so that was great.
Good for you. I'm so happy to hear you say that. Didn't that feel great?
First of many.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I've got one in my pipeline right now that's the buyer's agent. We should close in about 3 weeks. So when it rains, it pours.
But ain't that the truth? And I got to tell you, making money is so much fun. It's so much fun to make money. Making money, as I always say, it's one of my 3 favorite things, aside from chocolate cake or occasional sex and chocolate cake, and not in that order. And not in that order. Yes, I just said it. Aton's like going crazy. He's like, Ed, you got to stop that. Okay, guys. Congratulations, Randy. That's great news. Who else? Any other wants, needs, or brags before we get to Terry to sing us out of here? The topics are being set up, by the way. Now we're going to be emailing the October topics. I can't believe it's already the end of September, but look for that. I'm going to work that out with Aton and Daniel, and we're going to get the topics out there. If you guys want something to focus on, please feed it our way. We really do put a lot of time into researching this stuff and seeing how we can marry what you want with what is out there. And sometimes we'll come up with a completely different thing that everybody will reap the benefit from. What happens to Randy and Terry and Livette and every one of you is the same thing in every market, because human nature hasn't changed. When you think someone sucks, they suck here too. And you think somebody's great, they're great. And there's just, we've got to be kind of learning from one another. So that's great stuff. Okay, anything else? Okay, well, it's at this point of the meeting. Terry, you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is, for those of you who haven't seen this, Evel Knievel could never make this leap, but Ed Bogen's about to. Okay? At this time of the meeting, where I love to say, it sure was good having you. I really have such a great time meeting all of you, and I hope you call me, and I also hope that you show up next Wednesday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, for another exciting episode of
Rain Nation.
You see that? That's Terry everybody. Okay, guys. I don't know how that got started, but again, we just love it. And if it wasn't for Terry, we'd all be stuck here all week. So thank you for singing us out. Thank you, everyone. Kate, good to see you. Eitan, you the man. Everybody else, Randy, you really made my week. It really is. There's nothing feels better. I don't care if you made $1 or, hopefully more. But the point is that you begin to see the hope, and you begin to see that this is just a system that you could put in, and if it could be done once, it could be done 100 times. Remember that. The top producers all think that. You're worth it. You've got something in you that I'm not going to be able to compete with. All of you do. All of you do. And I'm so passionate about this. Last quick one. God, I know I'm always giving these quick stories, but last one. I had a listing appointment here at my country club. The guy invited me in. Very expensive home. At the end of it, he said, Ed, we're going with this woman. Her name is Kathy. Horrible woman, by the way. I never liked her. But the point is, we're going to go with her. I said, okay, great. I'm not going to try and convince you otherwise, but I want to learn from the circumstance. I want to learn from you. Can I take you to lunch? He said, Ed, of course. You're a great guy. Why not? Goes to lunch. The guy looks at me and he says, look, your presentation was better. I think you're smarter. I think you're the better agent. I said, why then did you go with her? He said, Ed, I talk to my wife and I see how women are when it comes to real estate. And I believe that real estate is something that should be sold by a woman, not by a man. I think you're in the wrong profession. And I looked at him with a straight face and straight eye. And I looked at him and I said, we're going to break through that glass ceiling one of these days. You'll see. We're going to take our rightful place in the world. Us men, we're going to be able to dominate something. Well, of course, I'm again going back to that word, kibitzing. I was joking. But I learned a lot. I learned that there are people that are going to discriminate against you. There are going to be people that are not going to like my age or that my gender, or if you're straight or gay or black or white or whatever. You're going to, this meeting is not about overcoming stuff that's impossible. You need to embrace that failure rate. If you're not failing, you're not succeeding. I mean, there's going to be a failure rate for you, but it's about understanding. And what did I do as a result of it? Now we've got Samantha and we got Nicole and we've got Dina. I got some estrogen going here because I recognize if he feels it was the greatest lesson I ever got in recent history. If he feels that way, you could bet other people do too. So you could either fight the world and say how terribly unfair it is, or you can make a strategy. Just remember, a locked door, then climb in through the window, go through the back door, find another way. There's always a way in. We're probably going to do a topic. Daniel, let's think about that one. Always a way in. We got to find a way to, you climb over the fence, crawl under the fence, do whatever you have to do. We're going to find a way to do it. Okay, guys, really, really great to see everybody. Make it a great week. I'm off to Texas, and I look forward to seeing all of you next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.